Check this out. Before there were selfies at scenic overlooks, there were photos with someone known as the root beer lady. Generations of canoeists made the stop paddling through the Boundary Waters for a bottle of homemade root beer and a conversation with a woman named Dorothy Moelter. And now her story is heading to the stage. Sammy is here to tell us about it.
Yeah, Jana. So Dorothy Moelter fell in love with the Boundary Waters when she was a nursing student. She visited a resort, ended up getting a job there, and inherited the property. And she managed to stay even though the government tried to force her out. And of course, she was known for her root beer.
Seasons in the Boundary Waters come and go. And it has been 40 years since Dorothy Moelter greeted canoers from her remote home on Knife Lake, where she lived by herself for 50 years.
I wouldn't know how to live in the city.
She was the last non-Indigenous person to live in the Boundary Waters. She sold homemade root beer to visitors and earned the name the Root Beer Lady.
Her root beer was so popular that they had to limit it, right?
Yes.
And still,
She couldn't keep up.
her legacy lives.
And when I land here in the cabin, I land as Dorothy.
Kim Schultz is the playwright and solo performer of the Root Beer Lady, now coming back to the History Theater for a third time.
We recreated all the signs she had. It's actually Quit Your Belly Aching. I get to imagine what was it like by herself up there. How did she feel about the 1952 Saturday Evening Post headline that called her the loneliest woman in America? Did she agree? Was she mad? Like what? So I get to play.
Schultz consulted with the Dorothy Moelter Museum in Ely.
She was in nursing school at the time she came up to the Boundary Waters canoe area.
Jess Edberg is the executive director.
And she maintained those nursing credentials for a lot of her life. And the fact that she could provide wilderness emergency medical services 15 miles from the nearest road is one of the reasons that she was able to negotiate that lifetime tenancy after the Wilderness Act in '64.
Was the root beer good?
So it depends on who you ask. A lot of folks were in the Boundary Waters for a week or 10 days. And this was the first beverage that they've had that wasn't water from the lake.
The longer you stay in the Boundary Waters, the better the root beer tastes.
After a 10-hour canoe ride in the heat of the summer, I'm sure it tasted pretty amazing.
It was my very first trip to the Boundary Waters.
Jim Grenke visited her on a canoe trip in 1986, the year she died.
I asked her, how does one make root beer out here? And I was expecting this kind of earthy story where you have to dig the roots and you go through a backwoods process. And she said, well, you go into town and you get the ingredients. That popped my bubble a little bit.
He says Kim's portrayal captured who Dorothy really was.
Especially with how at risk the Boundary Waters are. Having this story be told, I think, helps remind us of the importance of wilderness.
And as seasons come and go in the Boundary Waters, Dorothy Moelter's impact is still very much felt.
She was so much more than the Root Beer Lady.
The Root Beer Lady runs from July 8th to the 26th at the History Theater in St. Paul, and I'm told there will be plenty of laughs during the hour-and-a-half play. Jana?
You know, Sammy, I know you spend a lot of time in the Minnesota outdoors. She seems to be like a quintessential character, one you would tell a story at the campfire about.
Oh, absolutely. I actually heard about her when I went camping at the Boundary Waters, and now I just want to quit this job and go live in the Boundary Waters. So I'm going to plan and see what I can do to do that.
The GoFundMe is going up at the conclusion. Okay, bye.